ratios should conform to the following table. If the small family, child care, home caregiver, or teacher has no children under 2 years of age in care, then the small family, child care, home caregiver, teacher may have 1 to 6 children over 2 years of age in care. If the small family, child care, home giver / teacher has 1 child under 2 years of age in care, then the small family, child care, home giver / teacher may have 1, 2, 3 children over 2 years of age in care. If the small family, child care, home caregiver / teacher has 2 children under the age of 2 years of age in care, then the small family, child care, home caregiver / teacher may have no children over 2 years of age in care. The small family, child care, home caregiver's teacher's own children, as well as any other children in the home temporarily requiring supervision, should be included in the child-staff ratio. During nap time, at least one adult should be physically present in the same room as the children. Rationale: low child-staff ratios are most critical for infants and toddlers, which would be birth to 36 months. Infant and child development and caregiving quality improves when group size and child-staff ratios are smaller. Improved verbal interactions and correlated with lower child-staff ratios. Small ratios are very important for young children's development. The recommended group size and child-staff ratio allow 3 to 5-year-old children to have continuing adult support and guidance while encouraging independent, self-initiated play and other activities. Direct, warm social interaction between adults and children is more common and more likely with lower child-staff ratios. Caregivers / teachers must be recognized as performing a job for groups of children that parents / guardians of twins, triplets, or quadruplets would rarely be left to handle alone. In childcare, these children do not come from the same family and must learn a set of common rules that may differ from expectations in their own homes. Some comments. It is best practice for the caregiver / teacher to remain in the same room as the infants when they are sleeping to provide constant supervision. However, in small family child care programs, this may be difficult in practice because the caregiver / teacher is typically alone, and all of the children most likely will not sleep at the same time. In order to provide constant supervision during sleep, caregivers / teachers could consider discontinuing the practice of placing infants in a separate room for sleep, but instead placing the infant's crib in the play area used by the other children, so the caregiver / teacher is able to supervise the sleeping infants while caring for the other children. Care must be taken so that placement of cribs in an area used by other children does not encroach upon the minimum usable floor space requirements. Infants do not require a dark and quiet place for sleep. Once they become accustomed, infants are able to sleep without problems in environments with light and noise. By placing infants, as well as all children in care, on the main ground level of the home for sleep and remaining on the same level as the children, the caregiver / teacher is more likely able should do visual checks every 10 to 15 minutes to make sure the infant's head is uncovered and assess the infant's breathing, color, etc. Supervision is recommended for toddlers and preschoolers to ensure safety and prevent behaviors such as inappropriate touching or hurting other sleeping children from taking place. These behaviors may go undetected if a caregiver/teacher is not present. If caregiver/teacher is not able to remain in the same room as the children, frequent visual checks are also recommended for toddlers and preschoolers when they are sleeping. Each state has its own set of regulations that specify child-staff ratios. To view a particular state's regulations, go to the National Resource Center for Health and Safety in Childcare and Early Education's website. Some states are setting limits on the number of school-aged children that are allowed to be cared for in small family child care homes. Example, 2 school-aged children in addition to the maximum number allowed for infant/preschool children. No data are available to support using a different ratio where school-aged children are in family child care homes. Since school-aged children require focused caregiver/teacher time and attention for supervision and adult-child interaction, this standard applies the same ratio to all children 3 years old and over. The family child caregiver/teacher must be able to have a positive relationship and provide guidance for each child in care. This standard is consistent with the ratio requirements for toddlers in centers as described in Standard 1.1.12. Unscheduled inspections encourage compliance with this standard. Standard 1.1.12 Ratios for large family child care homes and centers. Child staff ratios in large family child care homes and centers should be maintained as follows during all hours of operation, including in vehicles during transport. If the age is 12 months or younger, the maximum child staff ratio is 2:1, with the maximum group size of 6. If the age of the child is 13 to 23 months, again the maximum child staff ratio is 2:1, with the maximum group size of 8. If the child's age is 24 to 35 months, the maximum child staff ratio is 3:1. The maximum group size is 12. If the child is 3 years old, the maximum child staff ratio is 7:1. The maximum group size is 12. If the child is 4 to 5 years old, the maximum child staff ratio is 8:1 and the maximum group size is 12. If the age of the child is 6 to 8 years old, the maximum child staff ratio is 10:1. The maximum group size is 12. And finally, if the age of the child is 9 to 12 years old, the maximum child to staff ratio is 12:1, and the maximum group size is 12. During nap time for children birth through 30 months of age, the child staff ratio must be maintained at all times, regardless of how many infants are sleeping. They must also be maintained even during the adult's break time so that ratios are not relaxed. During nap time for children ages 31 months and older, at least one adult should be physically present in the same room as the children, and maximum group size must be maintained. Children over 31 months of age can usually be organized to nap on a schedule, but infants and toddlers as individuals are more likely to nap on different schedules. In the event even one child is not sleeping, the child should be moved to another activity where appropriate supervision is provided. If there is an emergency during nap time, other adults should be on the same floor and should immediately assist the staff supervising sleeping children. The caregiver/teacher who is in the same room with the children should be able to summon these adults without leaving the children. When there are mixed age groups in the same room, the child-staff ratio and group size should be consistent with the age of most of the children. When infants or toddlers are in the mixed age group, the child-staff ratio and group size for infants and toddlers should be maintained. In large family child care homes with 2 or more caregivers, caring for no more than 12 children, no more than 3 children younger than 2 years of age should be in care. Children with special health care needs or who require more attention due to certain disabilities may require additional staff on site depending on their special needs and the extent of their disabilities. At least one adult who has satisfactorily completed a course in pediatric first aid, including CPR skills, within the past 3 years should be part of the ratio at all times. Rationale. These child-staff ratios are within the range of recommendations for each age group that the National Association for the Education of Young Children, otherwise known as NAEYC, uses in its accreditation program. The NAEYC recommendations a range that assures the director and staff members are highly trained and, by virtue of the accreditation process, have formed a staffing pattern that enables effective staff functioning. The standard for child staff ratios in this document uses a single desired ratio rather than a range. For each group, these ratios are more likely than less stringent ratios to support quality experiences for young children. Low child staff ratios for non-ambulatory children are essential for fire safety. The National Fire Protection Association recommends that no more than 3 children younger than 2 years of age be cared for in large family child care homes where 2 staff members are caring for up to 12 children. Children benefit from social interactions with peers. However, larger groups are generally associated with less positive interactions and developmental outcomes. Group size and ratio of children to adults are limited to allow for one-to-one interaction, intimate knowledge of individual children, and consistent caregiving. Studies have found that children, particularly infants and toddlers, in groups that comply with the recommended ratio receive more sensitive and appropriate caregiving and score higher on developmental assessments, particularly vocabulary. As is true in small family child care homes, Standard 1.1.1.1 child staff ratios alone do not predict the quality of care. Direct, warm social interaction between adults and children is more common and more likely with lower child staff ratios. Caregivers/teachers must be recognized as performing a job for groups of children that parents and guardians of twins, triplets, or quadruplets would rarely be left to handle alone. In childcare, these children do not come from the same family and must learn set of common rules that may differ from expectations in their own homes. Similarly, low child staff ratios are most critical for infants and young toddlers birth to 24 months. Infant development and caregiving quality improves when group size and child staff ratios are smaller. Improved verbal interactions are correlated with lower ratios. For 3 and 4-year-old children, the size of the group is even more important than ratios. The recommended group size and child staff ratios allow 3 to 5-year-old children to have continuing adult support and guidance while encouraging independent, self-initiated play and other activities. In addition, the children's physical safety and sanitation routines require a staff that is not fragmented by excessive demands. Child staff ratios in childcare settings should be sufficiently low to keep staff stress below levels that might result in anger with children. Caring for too many young children in particular increases the possibility of stress to the caregiver/teacher and may result in loss of the caregiver/teacher's self-control. Although observation of sleeping children does not require the physical presence of more than one caregiver/teacher for sleeping children to 31 months and older, the staff needed for an emergency response or evacuation of these children must remain available on site for this purpose. Ratios are required to be maintained for children 30 months and younger during nap time due to the need for closer observation and the frequent need to interact with younger children during periods while they are resting. Close proximity of staff to these younger groups enable more rapid response to situations where young children require more assistance than older children. For example, for evacuation, the requirement that a caregiver/teacher should remain in the sleeping area of children 31 months and older is not only to ensure safety but also to prevent inappropriate behavior from taking place that may go undetected if a caregiver/teacher is not present. While nap time may be the best option for regular staff conferences, staff lunch breaks, and staff training, one staff person should stay in the nap room and the above staff activities should take place in an area next to the nap room so other staff can assist if emergency evacuation becomes necessary. If a child with a potentially life-threatening special health care need is present, a staff member trained in CPR and pediatric first aid and one trained in administration of any potentially required medications should be available at all times. Some of the comments are: the child staff ratio indicates the maximum number of children permitted per caregiver/teacher. These ratios assume that caregivers/teachers do not have time-consuming bookkeeping and housekeeping duties, so they are free to provide direct care for children. The ratios do not include other personnel, such as bus drivers, necessary for specialized functions such as driving a vehicle. Group size is the number of children assigned to a caregiver/teacher or team of caregivers/teachers occupying an individual classroom or well-defined space within a larger room. The group in child care represents the homeroom for school-age children. It is a psychological base with which the school-age children identifies and from which the child gains continual guidance and support in various activities. The standard does not prohibit large numbers of school-age children from joining in occasional collective activities, as long as child staff ratios and the concept of homeroom are maintained. Unscheduled inspections encourage compliance with this standard. These standards are based on what children need for quality nurturing care. Those who question whether these ratios are affordable must consider the efforts to limit costs can result in overlooking the basic needs of children and creating a highly stressful work environment for caregivers and teachers. Community resources, in addition to parent-guardian fees and a greater public investment in childcare, can make critical contributions to the achievement of the child-staff ratios and group sizes specified in this standard. Each state has its own set of regulations that specify child-staff ratios. To view a particular state's regulations, go to the National Resource Center for Health and Safety and Childcare in Early Education. Standard 1.1.1.3 Ratios for facilities serving children with special health care needs and disabilities. Facilities enrolling children with special health care needs and disabilities should determine by an individual assessment of each child's needs whether the facility requires a lower child-staff ratio. The child-staff ratio must be allowed the needs of the child enrolled to be met. The facility should have sufficient direct care professional staff to provide the required programs and services. Integrated facilities with fewer resources may be able to serve children who need fewer services, and the staffing levels may vary accordingly. Adjustment of the ratio allows for the flexibility needed to meet each child's type and degree of special need and encourage each child to participate comfortably in program activities. Adjustment of the ratio provides flexibility without resulting in a need for care that is greater than the staff can provide without compromising the health and safety of other children. The family should seek consultation with parents and guardians, a child care health consultant, and other professionals regarding the appropriate child-staff ratio. The facility may wish to increase the number of staff members if the child requires significant special assistance. Comments. These ratios do not include personnel who have other duties that might preclude their involvement in needed supervision while they are performing those duties, such as therapists, cooks, maintenance workers, or bus drivers. The type of facility is a center, a large family child care home, small family child care home. Well, I think that is a nice stopping point for now. I'm going to slide in my bookmark here. And close the book. Let me just place this back on my shelf. I hope that your brain is feeling at ease. I hope that your mind is quieted some. I hope your body feels heavy and relaxed. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.